Hey my friends, welcome back to a new video today. We'll be talking about shifting our identity. You gotta make the shift because often we're talking about recognizing our beliefs, becoming more aware of our daily habits. So we can notice why our life is not going into the direction where we would like to go. But a beautiful concept here is that we are not changing ourselves. Actually, we're not changing ourselves because we are already all that we can be. But because we've been through an aging process and we've been schooled, we've been taught, we've been influenced by people around us, we've developed certain concepts, certain beliefs, certain ideas, certain what we call now paradigms about how life is, how life should work, what's God, what's the universe, how everything works, all the laws of the nature and everything. So we don't truly know much about life, and more than anything, we know anything, or we don't know much about ourselves. Well, a great thing that is happening right now is that people are becoming more familiar with their internal work, which means that we start to become more aware of our, what in psychology they call errors of the character, where we notice what kind of patterns are not serving us anymore. Like through self-awareness, through mental cognition, through inner observation, and deep introspection, we recognize what is not serving us anymore, and therefore we can identify limiting beliefs like, okay, I still believe that this is how life works. And we recognize our daily habits, and we recognize where we fall off the grace, and we recognize where we become unconscious, and we recognize what makes us feel anxious, and we recognize what makes us feel sad, what makes us feel triggered, and so on. And those are like tiny little errors in our characters. And often I say to you that our path here is giving us opportunity to shape our character and crystallize the soul. And later we'll talk more about it. But for the beginning or introduction of this video, I want to read something to you from the book Psycho-Cybernetics. Really powerful book when it comes to developing or changing our self-image. You see, we are not changing ourselves, but it's all about self-image. That's where identity comes from. Everything we've been through, we've developed certain beliefs about ourselves, certain concepts and ideas about ourselves. And as long as we believe that we are that way, it's hard to change anything in your life. It's hard to achieve anything you want in your life if you don't think that it's possible, if you don't believe into yourself, right? In this book, there's many powerful stories about people who were addicted to alcohol or cigarettes or whatever, and they've started visualizing themselves like living their lives without a need for those things. And there was like more improvement than any other method. And it's truly a powerful book. I recommend it to anyone. Psycho-Cybernetics. Maybe you've heard about it before. It's not, it's quite old. But it's really powerful book. So I said I want to read something to you, so listen to this. Changing your self-image does not mean changing yourself or improving yourself, but changing your own mental picture, your own estimation, conception, and realization of that self. The amazing results which follow from developing an adequate and realistic self-image come about not as a result of self-transformation, but from self-realization and self-revelation. Your self right now is what it has always been, and all that it can ever be. You did not create it. You cannot change it. You can, however, realize it and make the most of what already is by gaining a true mental picture of your actual self. And this is so powerful, and we will talk about this today. And then he also mentioned that creating a better self-image does not create new abilities, talents, powers. It realizes and utilizes them. And well, it means that behind all those masks and different ideas, there's the true self. And how can we know that true self? Because we've heard a lot about authenticity, how to be more authentic, right? How to let go of certain social patterns and habits so we can become more authentic. And in order to discover that authentic self, we need to look into our childhood. And we need to ask ourselves who we were as little kids, like how we were like. Because before we went through conditioning process, we've been quite unique, right? You had unique talents, unique gifts, unique ideas, unique goals, unique desires that were uniquely yours. And you had some dreams for your future that were maybe eventually lost. But they are not completely lost because they are seeds in your soul. So you're kind of discovering it once again. And that's why Socrates said that in life we are not learning, but actually remembering. And that is a powerful idea because what it means, like we've been born without a complete memory of who we are, where we're coming from. But we still have that sense of connection, of unity, of source, of what we could call as a divine natural home or a source of the creator. But then we go through conditioning and we learn how the society works, how the system works, how everything is designed, and we move through that conditioning, and at some point we completely forget who we are. And that's where we start a journey of remembering. Can I remember who I am by moving through my life's experiences? And that's what many of us may call a moment of a spiritual awakening, where we recognize, well, who am I? Like we start questioning ourselves. We recognize that nothing makes sense anymore. We come to a point in our lives where nothing makes sense anymore. And most probably you've already experienced that. Usually it happens before the dark night of the soul. We start questioning all those things like, where am I coming from? Who am I? What's the meaning of life? And all of that, right? And then the dark night of the soul, when we start to recognize that we've been living in a lie, that all of that is, it's not real, like something is missing. Like why you needed to pretend all that time to be somebody you're not, and why you've lost that sense of deep dreams that you had for life, like the seeds of talents you have, why you've stopped nurturing them because of certain responsibilities that are not maybe yours. Of course, life is filled with responsibilities, but we need to ask ourselves, what are our priorities, right? Because if we're so caught up in so many different things, we may forget about what's truly important to us. And then eventually we forget, who are we, right? Who is that that self we call I? And in many spiritual teachings, they call it the ego self. But ego is a complex concept because there's more degrees to it. Like, for example, we have, even the word ego means I am, or the self. The ego is the self. But then there's this deeper ego that makes us arrogant, that makes us, what we say, egoistic in society. So we need to become aware of those things, and that's what we call errors of our character. We start shaping our character from the heart. So what it means? It means that that you start remembering once again what your true self, truly how it feels like who you were as a little kid, what were your dreams and goals and things like that. Because when I looked into my childhood, I've recognized that I was drawing all the time. I was creating all the time. I loved hanging with people. I loved talking. I loved being outside in nature. I was actually all day long in nature. So I've recognized that this is who I am. But later in life, I became more quiet one because I felt like nobody understands me. So I've developed that protective mechanism, like I will not talk, or I will only talk if somebody asks me something, which became so strong that I became really quiet at a certain point in my life. Like I was not talking to anyone if there was no need to it, because that's how I felt, and I've developed that belief, like this is who I am. And then somebody says something to you, or a teacher, especially teachers and authorities, say something to us, like who we are, and we start to believe the stories. And if we don't question the stories, they may stay real for the rest of our lives. And that's why it's so important to recognize what is your identity. Because there's a beautiful saying by Dr. Joe Dispenza who says, your personality creates your personal reality. That's where we notice that the exact beliefs we have about ourselves are also the beliefs we have about the world around us. When we are judging ourselves all the time, we go outside into the public and we will think like everybody is judging us, right? When we become more self-accepting, we start accepting others as well. When we become more self-compassionate, we develop a compassion for others as well, right? When we start understanding our shadow aspect of us, the dark aspect of us, all the things we're kind of hiding from the world, where when we start understanding that, we start to see a pattern in people around us. Like they all have those shameful sensations and maybe fearful thoughts or limiting beliefs or whatever. We start to see a pattern, right? And that's how we start developing a new perspective. That maybe we're not the victims, maybe we're not the broken ones. Maybe we're the ones that became aware of the wounds so we can slowly heal them, right? And the dark night of the soul, for example, in Alchemy, there are 3 major phases to transformation, and often I mention them to you. The first one is the dark night of the soul, when we notice, well, there's something wrong on this world. Like, I don't like how I'm living my life. Most of my friends don't really know who I am. And I don't know who I am, so I want to discover it. And then things around us start falling apart because we stop feeding them. We stop engaging in same things. We stop paying attention to same things and as before, and suddenly things slowly start falling apart, and then some people may go against us, like, what are you doing? And we lose some friends, and maybe we lose some money, or whatever happens, and we go through that hard process that initiates the process of purification. Many of you have been through it already. Many of you may be there right now. If you're there right now, I want to remind you, it feels heavy, but it's a preparation for something greater that's coming, because it's only a phase that purifies us. It's called a dark night of the soul, but it's also a bright beginning for what's coming. So it initiates the second phase, that is the phase of purification. It's also called the white phase. The white phase is all about purification, where we recognize what kind of thoughts and beliefs doesn't serve us anymore. In that phase, usually we start reading eye-opening books. We start studying new subjects, new topics that can actually uplift our lives. We get into self-empowerment, not just positive thinking, but the information that can empower our lives. We declutter the food and, anything that is not helping us to be the best versions of ourselves we can be. We take care of our habits. We usually in that phase start developing better routines, like morning routines. We become more disciplined because discipline is important. We become more aware of with what kind of people we are spending our time and investing our time, so we can grow together, right? And also in that phase, usually people become aware of that inner sense that was present in their childhood, like a sense of calling. This is what I want to do. Because little kids are not here to be selfish. Have you noticed that? They're here to help others to smile. They're always serving to others. They're always entertaining others. They're not thinking about what they need to receive. They're all about what they can give, right? You can come into a really sad or stressful environment, and the only people that are not touched by that energy are little kids who don't have those concepts and ideas about how people are like yet. And in that purification phase, you become more aware of that childlike playfulness once again, childlike creativity, childlike curiosity, beautiful sensations. We become more aware of that. And then the third phase is the phase of crystallization, when we start crystallizing our soul and we start adapting the character, the personality to what we've learned in that second phase. We start applying knowledge, implementing all the lessons we've learned through our life's experiences. And if we truly put everything we've learned into action, into work, we develop a new personality, we change, something changes. And it's called in psychology the development of the character. That's where we become more precise about what we truly want in life. We focus on what's important to us. We take care of our distractions, and we set the goals, we set the visions, and we do the things that are important to us. We work on all different aspects of our life, so we experience as great as possible fulfillment as it is in our power and understanding at that moment. So this is the phase where our energy expands, becomes stronger, we become more magnetic, and we start manifesting many great things. And recently I've noticed many comments of people saying that their lives started shifting. So many people are in this phase right now, the phase of crystallization. We had 2 years of this COVID situation that initiated that process so much for so many people. That is great to see, because the world in the future will need so much of people who have been through that process. Because in that process, we truly start working on our skills. Like, what kind of skills you truly want to develop? What makes your soul glow? What makes you as joyful as you can be? Because that's where you are coming to your true self, right? So you see, you're never changing yourself. You're just adapting your identity, your personality, your character to the realest and truest version of yourself. You're like sculpturing yourself. As you've been through conditioning, you forgot who you are, so you were like whatever society made out of you. But then you've slowly started sculpturing yourself, and your identity, your personality becomes more than anything a reflection of the soul. And that is a powerful process. So what it means practically, it means that you overcome your limiting beliefs. Like you change the stories of yourself, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of, how the world works. You ask yourself what feels right. You ask yourself who you can be. You ask yourself what would be that most authentic version of yourself like. For example, when it comes to anxiety, if you think about yourself being socially anxious, and you start visualizing yourself being completely natural, being completely authentic in any kind of groups or anywhere, you will start developing a new program that will become stronger when you will go outside and actually expose yourself. You will remind yourself, oh, actually it feels more natural than ever before. That's the power of our mind. And that's why it's so important that we develop that self-image out of our heart, out of that remembering of who we were as little kids. Just that we have more wisdom because we've been through a lot. So we use that childlike energy, but add up the wisdom that was presented to us through all the experiences we've been through. And that's how we shape the character. So everything you've been through can serve you as a field of lessons. Like, what's the wisdom you've gained from those experiences? What you've learned when somebody hurt you, what you've learned there. Well, some people are mean, but what you've learned about yourself there, because all the relationships may be a reflection of ourselves. So we ask ourselves, well, if that person hurt me, what was the cause of it? Like, what that person went through or have been through or is feeling that has such a lack of compassion that did something so mean to me, right? And we start questioning, like, what are those emotions? How can I provide something that can bring maybe a bit more understanding to those who are dealing with similar things and have the potential to do something similar? And that's where you notice the purpose, why you've been through whatever you've been through. And that is what is causing the evolution of yourself. That's where your identity, your character becomes a reflection of your soul. So it's not just some visualizing what you want to experience in your life, even though it can help you so much. But you actually reflect on your errors. You reflect on what doesn't feel right. And you ask yourself what would feel right. You're like in relationship with your heart, asking yourself, like, what truly resonates with me? And you start shaping your life around what truly resonates. What truly resonates. It's a heartfelt sensation. Don't just listen to your emotions when it comes to that. Sometimes fear may say to you, oh, you shouldn't do that. But your heart will say to you, let's try it out, right? So we need to in tune with that feeling of what truly resonates, and then work on that and reflect on errors, reflect on triggers, reflect on limiting beliefs, question everything. That's what will help you to shape that personality and form it the way that will allow you to express your true self. So my friends, I hope you found something valuable here today. I'm sending you lots of love, blessings, and power. Thanks to all of you for supporting my art in my Etsy shop. I Draw My Passion. You're all truly appreciated. We are running some fresh new sales, so go there and check it out. They will be there until the last of March, so check it out. And till next time, one love.